Welcome, dear viewer. This is One-on-One. Today, this is a very, very special feature that is done in memory of the late second president of the Republic of Kenya, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, who passed away a few hours ago. And we have brought somebody today to our studio who is going to assist us in saying a little bit more about President Moi, so that we can understand his life, learn something from his life. I want to welcome you to the studio.
Thank you.
You're really welcome. What's your name?
My name is Job Kimeto.
Yes. And Mr. Job Kimeto here has been a member of the Baraton community for many years. You are a student here?
Yes, I was.
And then you worked here all the way to an administrator of this university.
Yes.
And then retired from this university.
Yes.
And you are a Seventh-day Adventist.
I am.
And there is a lot we want to talk about today about the late President Moi, who died a few hours ago, in relation to this university and also to the church.
Yes.
Maybe you begin by telling us something, maybe say something to the family, and then tell us how you got to know President Moi in your early years.
Okay, thank you. I want to take this opportunity to say a word of condolence to the family and even to the nation of Kenya.
Yes.
For having lost a man who has served this country for a long, long time.
Yes. Born 1924.
Yes.
Up to today at almost 96.
Is when he has passed away.
Yes.
Yes.
And we want to thank God. So how did you, the first time you heard of President Moi, tell us something.
Well, I heard about President Moi when he was actually in Parliament.
Okay.
Those early years, he was representing the regional government.
Yes.
Which was the Rift Valley.
He was the representative of Rift Valley.
He was the representative of Rift Valley.
In the Legislative Council.
In the Legislative Council.
Which was known as Legico.
Legico.
So you want to tell us he began as a politician or?
No, he began first of all as a teacher.
Yes.
He went to school and then went to train as a teacher.
Yes.
And then after that, he went out to serve as a teacher. And he taught in many places. One of the places he taught was Kabarnet High School. I mean, Kabarnet Primary School.
Okay.
That is where he taught. He even actually taught here in Kapsabet.
Okay.
And
Tambach.
Tambach also.
Yes.
He taught there for a number of years. I don't remember the number of years he taught there.
Yes.
I think he was even the head teacher there.
In Tambach.
In Tambach for a while.
Yes.
And so he became a teacher and taught for a number of years.
Yeah. Then now it's from teaching that he moved into politics.
Yes, it was from teaching. Then that is when he moved to politics.
Now, some of our viewers across the world need to know a little bit about President Moi. He was born, Kenya has how many tribes?
Now 40 what? 41? 43?
Yes,
yeah.
Tribes in Kenya.
Yes.
And President Moi was born in a larger tribe of the Kalenjin people.
Yes.
But among the Kalenjin, I know even there are people in Kenya who think all Kalenjins are just the same, but there are sub-tribes.
Yes.
Among the Kalenjin.
Yes.
Yeah. Like which one?
The sub-tribes like the Tugen, where Moi comes from.
Moi came from among the Tugen.
Yes, among the Tugen.
Yes.
And so there are other sub-tribes. And we have major tribes like the Kipsigis and the Nandi. Those are the major ones.
Yes.
And the sub-tribes is one of them is the Tugen, where Moi is coming from.
So while Moi belonged to the larger Kalenjin tribe, but he came from among the Tugen. And the Tugen people are found around Baringo.
Yes.
Eldama Ravine.
Around there.
Towards Nakuru.
Yes.
And even his home was around Nakuru.
Around Nakuru, more to be specific, is in Kabarnet.
Kabarnet.
Yes.
Oh yes, when you talk about Kabarnet, Moi was also a member of parliament of Baringo Central.
Of Baringo Central,
and
yes.
for many years he voted in Kabarnet town.
Yes.
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 And now Moi moved into politics of representing the Rift Valley. Then from there?
Then he was chosen to be a member of parliament, and he represented Rift Valley in parliament.
Okay.
And then for a number of years, before then becoming being appointed as the vice president much later.
And so much later he became the vice president of Kenya.
Yes.
And it is while being the vice president that the first president of Kenya died.
Yes.
And constitutionally he became the acting president.
Yes.
For 90 days.
Yes, he was sworn in to act for 90 days as the acting president.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then when elections were held,
he became the president.
He became the president. For how many years?
For 24 years.
24 years, longest serving president.
Yes.
Now, what are some of the achievements that when we look at it, we say, and you know, it's in African culture that we don't speak bad things about the dead. And there are people who may not have liked him, but at least there are positive things that we can say that these were the achievements of His Excellency President Daniel Arap Moi.
I just want to begin by saying, when President Moi became the president,
yes,
he began with a philosophy for this country.
Okay.
The Nyayo philosophy.
The Nyayo philosophy.
The Nyayo philosophy was talking about peace, love, and unity. And this is something that helped him to unite the country.
So Nyayo has to do with the footsteps.
It is the footsteps.
So he was following the footsteps of the first president.
Of the former president.
But his philosophy was that he wants the country to have peace, love and unity. And that's what he focused on.
And that is what he focused on all through.
And do we know the philosophy of the other presidents who have followed after that?
They have not come out very clearly with their philosophies.
They may be having a philosophy, but it's not as clear
as this one.
As this one of peace, love, and unity.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that we can say that this one was a major contribution of His Excellency President Daniel Arap Moi?
The contribution of the late president is that with this philosophy that he came up with, he was able to unite the people. And first of all, let me actually say this about President Moi, the late President Moi, that he was a God-fearing person. A God-fearing person.
He was known to be a church man.
He was known to be a church man. Every Sunday he was in church.
And part of the national news was to tell the whole country that the president worshipped.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the way the news used to come, those early days, is that the president is reported. What the president has done on that particular day is the first news to be reported to the country.
Yes.
If he has gone to church, it will be said he has attended church today. In Kabarak.
Before any other news.
Before any other news.
Yes, and Kabarak was his favorite church.
And Kabarak was the place where he attended church most of the times.
Then once in a while there was another church in Milimani, Nairobi, where he would worship.
Yes.
Yes.
And he would once in a while go out to other churches.
Yes.
Like even come to Kapsabet here, the Bible school church.
Yes.
He would actually attend church here. Yes.
So President Moi was known to be a church man. And that's what he wanted the country to know about himself.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Something else.
Now, his contributions, he made a number of contributions to this country. Now, one of the contributions that Moi made to this country in terms of development and projects is building of the hospitals. He built so many hospitals.
Yes.
There are words we know today as the Nyayo words.
Because from his philosophy, the Nyayo philosophy.
The Nyayo philosophy.
So you have Nyayo words.
You have the Nyayo words.
Which were built by his direct contribution.
That's right.
Yes.
Almost in every part of the country.
Yes.
You have the Nyayo words all over.
Yes.
All over Kenya. That is one development.
In the health sector.
That is in the health sector. Then you have the roads, of course, were built all over the country.
Yes.
You have projects in agriculture.
The Nyayo T zones.
The Nyayo T zones.
So these were again his projects.
These again are his projects. The Nyayo T zones, which were again all over the country. And so
this was at a time when most of the tea estates were being managed by international organizations.
Yes.
And now he came up with the Nyayo tea zones that are managed by the government of Kenya.
Yes. And so this was run and managed by the government of Kenya.
Yes, the Nyayo tea zones.
The Nyayo tea zones. Which actually the proceeds from these Nyayo tea zones went into the development of the country. Yes. And so the major, after all those, the major project or the major thing that President Moi did during his tenure as the president is in education.
He is known for education.
Known for education. And I think this is because he loved education all along.
He was a trained teacher.
He was a trained teacher.
Yeah.
He taught in schools as a teacher.
Yes.
And so he came in as a president with that love of education in him. And so when he ascended as the president, then he came and started building many schools for this country. And we have schools.
Yes.
Primary schools were improved.
Secondary schools.
Secondary schools.
Yes.
Actually, many secondary schools.
Yes.
Today, if you walk around, you can actually see the good schools that were constructed during the time of president.
And uniquely at that time, schools that he made any contribution toward carried his name.
Exactly.
So there will be Moi,
Moi, Kabarak. If we were to use that one as an example.
Moi Girls, Eldoret.
Moi Girls. Moi
Girls State House.
All the Mois that we have.
The Moi schools.
The Moi schools.
Hundreds of schools across the country.
Exactly.
Is because while some of those schools may have existed before, but whenever he came to make a huge contribution to the school, the name was reviewed.
The name was reviewed and took the name of Moi.
Yes.
Yes.
And so his name is all over. Now, when we talk of education, the government of Kenya converted many colleges into universities.
Yes.
But there is one university that the government under Moi built for the government from zero to the top in Keses. Moi University.
Yes.
So that's another contribution.
Yes.
That he built a completely new university for the government from zero to the top.
Exactly.
Because when you look at other universities, their history shows that they were colleges, they were what, then they became universities.
Yeah, but this was from zero.
The bushes were cut.
Yes.
And a university was put up.
A university came up. This was in 1985 when Moi University was
constructed,
born, and started running.
So this is a major contribution of His Excellency, the former president, the late Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi.
Yes.
Something else you remember about him?
Oh yeah, there are many things to remember about our president, our late president. He gave gifts, many gifts to many churches, and like holding harambes, fundraising to build churches.
Yes.
Because he loved this, being a God-fearing man.
Yes.
He loved seeing churches come up. And so he held so many harambes.
And harambe are fundraisings where people each one brings some amount of money put together.
And then
it helps that project.
That's right.
Yes.
And so he helped in that manner. And so he helped in so many of these projects here in Kenya.
And at that time also the president had power to give land.
Yes.
And there are churches and schools which benefited.
Yes.
So people would go to him and request that we have a project, we need land.
Yes.
And he will give the land.
Yes.
And I know Seventh-day Adventists, among many others, are beneficiaries of land that was given by the president.
Right.
Yeah. Now let's talk about Baraton, Mr. Kimeto. And you've been in Baraton for how many years? How long have you been associated with Baraton?
I have been associated with Baraton for the last 38 years.
38 years.
Yes.
And maybe our viewer would like to know, does Moi come into any picture in the history of the University of Eastern Africa, Baraton? And if Moi comes in the picture, where does he come in?
Okay. Let me go back a bit and talk about how Moi came to know about what Adventists believe in.
Yes.
I was in high school in 1972.
Okay.
When President Moi was then the vice president.
Yes.
1972, he was the president.
Yeah.
He came to our
He was the vice president.
He was the vice president.
Yes.
In 1972.
Yes.
I was then at Kamagambo High School,
Mm-hmm.
and he came there in his capacity as the vice president.
Yes.
And when he came, at the end of his visit,
Yes.
he was given a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And the gift he was given was the book Education by Ellen White.
Okay.
He was given that book.
Yes.
Given to him.
Yes.
It was later reported after so many years.
Yes.
That he may have taken time to read that book, Education.
Book, yes.
And he actually said he wanted to see an institution that practices what is written
in that book.
What is in that book.
Wow.
And so he, and when he said that, it kind of coincided with what was happening in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, looking for a place
to set up a university.
But
by the way, dear viewer, before I forget, that book can be accessed online. Education by Ellen G. White. And if you find a closest Seventh-day Adventist church to you, you can find a hard copy of that book, Education. It is just a book that once you read, you will never see education the same way again. And you hear former president, the late Daniel Moi, read the book, and it is said that he said, no, if what is in this book is as it is, we want to see a university of this nature. So SDA Church appears in the picture.
Yes.
They are looking for a place to put a university in Kenya.
They are looking for a place to put a place in Kenya.
Uh-huh.
I mean, a place to put a university in Kenya.
Yes.
And so it happens that he was approached.
Yes.
That a place is needed.
Yes.
To put a university.
Yes.
And it seems he must have remembered.
Yes.
About that book which
yes.
he was given.
Yes.
In a sister institution.
Yes.
Which is this Kamagambo High School.
Yes.
And so, you remember, they're looking for a place for the university here. Our church had gone to various places.
Yes.
In fact, we are even told that they had even gone to Tanzania.
Yeah.
They had gone some place to many places.
Yes.
Within the country here.
Yeah.
And so they finally ended up coming to Nandi land.
Yes.
And the first place they landed in
yes.
was near Nandi Hills.
Oh, where the tea estates are in
where
Nandi
the tea estates are in
yes.
Nandi Hills.
Yes.
And so that was the place they were about to settle.
Yes.
That this is the place now to set up the university.
Yes.
But the president himself, having known this and having been told about a good place,
yeah.
I mean, that a good place is needed to set up
that Adventists are looking for a place to put up a university.
To put up a university. He said, no, it won't be there in...
around Nandi Hills.
Around Nandi Hills. Yeah. There is a place.
Yes.
There is an agricultural station.
Yes.
Here near Kapsabet.
Yeah.
That I can actually give to the church to set up a university.
So this was a place called Baraton.
This was a place called Baraton.
Yes.
And so he actually, without hesitating,
yes,
gave this land of 339 acres
yes,
to the church to set up a university.
So President Moi initiated by giving the church land where the university is today.
Exactly.
Where we are broadcasting from today.
Yes.
It is a contribution of His Excellency Daniel Moi.
We never paid a single cent as a church for this. This was a free gift from the government, from President Moi himself.
Yes.
To this church to set up a university.
Yes.
And the reason for that was he wanted to see what was in that book called Education. How much of it
can be implemented.
Can be implemented in this university.
Yes.
Yes. So
which year was this now?
When this was 1978?
Yes.
Yes, that was 1978.
And so the land was given.
The land was given.
And so 1979, students started trickling in.
Yes.
And the classes began 1980.
1980.
First graduation, 1983.
1983, yes.
And then President Moi did something again for this university.
Yes.
In 1991.
Yes, he granted a charter.
The first private university in the country.
To be chartered.
That means he had observed the university from 1978 as it began.
Yes.
And up to 1991, and he was convinced with his government that it is safe to give a charter to this private university.
Right. And he himself came to give that charter in the field out here.
He came and granted that charter.
He came and granted that charter out here in the field. And in fact, in 1983, 1983, when the first graduation was done, he was ready to come and officiate
the first graduation.
The first graduation.
Yes.
But he was actually prevented at the last minute that the university was not chartered yet. And therefore, he could not come as the head of state to an
unchartered university.
Unchartered university. And so that kind of, at that point, he had, actually, all preparations had been done. Graduation was going to take place in front of the present administration. In fact, that field there, everything had been done. The dais had already been made, and the president was expected to come. The last minute it was only on that
technicality.
And so otherwise he was ready to see, I think, what he had been looking forward for a long time to be fulfilled.
And I'm sure as president, he had organs to collect news to know whether what was happening is exactly what he had read.
I'm sure so.
So in 1991, something that had never happened in this country happened. That a private university operating privately under the Seventh-day Adventist Church is granted a charter.
Yes.
And so at that time, we stopped giving degrees from Andrews University in America, and now we're giving degrees
from here,
the University of Eastern Africa, Baraton.
Yes.
Wow.
A charter, the first chartered university in this country.
That was a great contribution. And that's why, dear viewers, we say that as the University of Eastern Africa, Baraton, we really condole with the family and the Republic of Kenya, because the late president who died a few hours ago has made a huge, huge contribution, not only to this country, not only in education, but particularly to this university where we are broadcasting from, that he gave the land and he showed that he had faith in what was happening right here. Wow. Then later on in history, I know he came back again, and there's a building he opened, the science building, the science complex. He's the one who came and opened it.
Yes.
Because he had faith in what was happening here.
Exactly. He had already developed enough faith about what was happening here.
And that was an anniversary we were celebrating, and again the university appreciated the president at that time. He was a retired president at that time.
He was.
And so this university has had the culture of appreciating him. I know he was given an honorary doctorate when he came to give the charter, Doctor of Letters.
Yes.
And again, he was celebrated when he came here to open the Science Building. And so we still want to express our great appreciation to the family and to the government officials that worked with him at that time and even the government today. Is there something you remember about President Moi, particularly his sayings, that we would like to give as a parting shot to our viewer?
There is a lot to remember about President Moi. As I earlier on started by saying he was a God-fearing man. And I'm sure many Kenyans learned something from that.
Yes.
A man who is the president of the country, going to church every Sunday.
Yes.
And going to church on time.
Yes.
And many of his functions,
yes,
I would remember about President Moi is that he would attend those functions on time.
Okay, he would keep time.
He was a man who kept time.
I don't know if these politicians are listening who tell us fundraising is at 11, then you come at 4 without apology and you tell us you are in a hurry. Shame on you. Really? 11 o'clock we are sitting there. Our lips are dry. We are just yawning, waiting for you. Then you come at 4. Learn from the late president. Keep time.
Yes. And in fact, we are also told that, when the president used to report to his office, he went on time.
Yeah,
in fact, I was listening to the radio this morning.
Yes.
And somebody was saying he woke up 3 in the morning.
Yes.
Waking up 3 in the morning.
Yes.
And by 5 or 5:30,
yes,
he was already in his office.
And then we learned also that he would call all the provincial administrators to update him on what's happening in the province.
Yes.
So every provincial administrator knew at 5 in the morning there will be a phone call.
Yes.
And so by that time, the provincial administrators have collected news from the district commissioners. And so by 5:30, he knows everything about the country.
Exactly. And by the time he comes to the office,
yes,
he's not to be told. He is actually to tell.
He's the one telling people because he has collected information.
He has collected enough information.
There's something about waking up early, dear viewer. You know you are waking up time and you are wishing to even assist the president, leave alone being the president. For you to belong to a higher league. And many times we've talked about great people here. You discover that waking up early and focusing on your work is a major contribution. His Excellency, the late president, by 5 in the morning, he knew everything that was happening around the country and was ready to run the country. Wow. And you remember siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya. That was one of the sayings of siasa is politics and mbaya is bad. So what the late president used to say is that bad politics, bad life. Siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya. Well, we want to thank you so much, Mr. Kimeto, for coming to Baraton TV studios so that we can condole with the country. It is in the culture of human beings that when somebody passes away, we remember what they did. We sit together again and talk about the person because now we have lost the person. It's time to remember, to appreciate what they did. And if there is any wrong they did, it is between them and God, and we have a forgiving God who takes care of that. So we want to sincerely appreciate your coming.
I remember the last words of the late president.
Yes.
I think he just some months back.
Yes.
When he actually stood up and said, if I have wronged you,
yes,
please forgive me. And if you have wronged me also, I forgive you. And I think that is something we as Christians and as Kenyans, we need to take from him. That we don't have to hold on what other people have done to us.
Yes.
We need to be ready to forgive when time comes for us we need to forgive them.
We need to learn to forgive.
We need to learn to forgive.
And there's something maybe we didn't mention about politics. He's been called a professor
of politics.
And when we thought that he had failed in his last major project of Uhuru Kenyatta being president in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he chose Uhuru when the whole country thought he's wrong.
Yes, yes.
They said, no, the Mzee has lost it. How does he choose this man to be president? 10 years later, Uhuru became president.
Yes.
And the Mzee proved that I'm a professor.
And indeed, he was a professor of politics in many ways.
Yes.
Many things he did.
Yeah.
In fact, again, as I was listening this morning after the news was given out, someone was actually saying President Moi was a man who could actually be here and see things 100 kilometers away.
Yes, before it comes.
Before it comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That he was a political giraffe.
Yeah. To be able to see.
He could see it coming. Yes.
And so.
And unlike other African presidents who at the end of their power, they ran away from their country. He surrendered power to Mwai Kibaki, who he didn't necessarily support, but he stayed in the country.
Exactly.
And he stayed in the country, and it is remarkable that even in his sickness, he was treated in this country, and he has passed away in this country without running away to seek medical care elsewhere where the ordinary people cannot reach. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, thank you so much, dear viewer. It's a pleasure. We are coming to you from Baraton TV, broadcasting from the University of Eastern Africa, Baraton. We greatly appreciate you are following us, you are subscribing, you are sharing, and we want to condole with the country once again, saying to the family, pole sana, saying to the nation of Kenya, pole sana. This is Baraton TV, here and hereafter.